Now, it's time for Spotlight on Business, where every week we put the spotlight on a different local business so you can find out how they serve you and the community. Now from Michiana's Morning News, it's Laura Smith.
Welcome to the Style File, all part of Spotlight on Business with the one and only guest of honor, who always looks so darn good. Too good for radio, Danny Reynolds. Thanks for being here. Hey.
And I could have come in my jammies, right?
You could have, but you know what?
My Sunday best.
Well, first of all, obviously, owning Stephensons of Elkhart, and running it for as long as your family has, I've never seen you in the same outfit twice. Never. But I guess that's to be expected.
It does create some closet confusion sometimes, or closet, I won't say clutter, but stuffed closet syndrome. I'm not sure if that's in the DSM manual of psychology school yet or not, but it's a real thing. It's something we hear from our customers all the time. In fact, maybe we'll do an episode about that, some closet tips.
Yeah, or maybe get some closet therapy. Something, anything.
We do offer retail therapy. It's free of charge.
Yes, you do. You certainly do. Hey, listen, instead of going to therapy, I actually go to Stephensons because, I don't know, I relax when I'm there. I get to talk to everybody. I swear, all the wonderful people that have been working there for years, and plus your mom, Marge, she's seen and heard it all. It is. I can just go in there. Sometimes I just go in there and sit way before I start to shop, just because I want to talk to everybody.
Yeah, well, I think it's nice for it to be kind of a place to gather, hang out.
Oh, it is.
Talk to your friends, and truly, it can be therapeutic. For some, I think somebody like you've got a lot going on. You want to come in. This is a place you don't have to think about too much, but you get to look at all the pretty clothes and hopefully see some smiling faces and make friends and have a good time doing it.
I don't think I've ever walked out empty-handed, and that's a problem. That's what I need to get therapy about, okay? But no, it is. It's special fun, and it's something I just enjoy immensely. Wow, we went from winter to summer to spring to fall to, funnel clouds to everything in between. Just over the last week or so, 2 weeks.
You see it all.
How do you dress for that?
Northern Indiana in March is an experience of all four seasons, typically. And I think we're definitely...
And sometimes all in one day. Truly, it's just been crazy. But what it does is, you talk about confusion. I go to my closet and I'm like looking at all the thick sweaters. And then when it was 75 last week or the week before, I didn't know what to do.
It makes it difficult.
I hadn't gone down to the,
a little planning ahead helps. As silly, basic, simple as it sounds, one thing that I often suggest people do if when they say, "Oh, I don't know how to dress right now, the weather," take a look at the forecast the night before, plan out what you're going to wear, hang it on your closet or wherever that night. You will thank yourself in the morning because sometimes also this with the weather change, I don't know about you, but like the pressure and all the stuff sometimes it makes it harder to get out of bed. So I'd rather have that extra 5 minutes to prepare myself to be mobile than having to stress about what I'm wearing. So
yeah, that's interesting because I think about it. But when I was 5 and we lived at Simonton Lake and my mom used to take me to Stephensons with her, she made us pick out our clothes at night before kindergarten and first grade, and my sister in 5th grade or whatever.
Mom's always right.
Well, but I don't do that anymore. I don't plan.
Let's try it next week.
I should.
5 days. See how it goes.
I'm telling you, the therapy is free. It's fabulous. Right. It is fabulous.
Right. And it's worth about that much, too. But I know we didn't come here to talk about therapy today. Let's tell all the people what we're going to do. So those of you who, I feel like we've kind of come up with a system here where we have a little fashion fun for half of the program, and then we talk a little bit of business or retail or whatever it might be the other half. We're going to talk fashion, trends, style the first half. We'll talk a little bit about let's just call it the most pro-Main Street bill in U.S. history with regard to taxes. We'll catch that on the second half. So those of you that like to listen to that, if you're a small business owner, just endure the next 10 minutes. And we've got some great info for you on the back half.
Well, it's not about enduring. I mean, really, it's a fascinating conversation whenever you have it with us because you are on the cutting edge. You are where it's happening. You you're in Washington, and you're actually kind of informing, I think, a lot of the country, because you're in this organization that talks about small businesses in the government. And, thank goodness for that. We really need somebody to represent Main Street and bring them back down to earth kind of thing. And you're the guy to do that, which I just find so exciting that you're there. Even while you're here at Stephensons most of the time, you're also doing that.
It's sort of been a calling, but we're going to talk about that in the second half.
Oh, that's right. Okay. So listen, you and I were talking offline a little bit about how nothing's old is new again, and how some of those styles from the 80s that really you wanted to get rid of a while ago are now making their way back. You see, that's why I never throw anything away.
That's good policy. Good policy. Because we've been seeing for a number of years now, I think designers always tend to sort of hark back through the decades for inspiration. And one interesting thing we've seen at the grand level of fashion, the big houses, is complete turnover of head designers. So you take a Chanel, a Louis Vuitton, you name it, every Gucci, every major house has hired a new designer this year.
Really?
I guess the only exception would be at Prada. Miuccia Prada, still there, but she brought on Ralph Simmons a couple of years ago. They remain intact. Every other major house has seen a change in top designer. Demna, one of the biggest names, has recently launched at Gucci, so seeing a big fundamental change there. And I know most people could care less, and probably rightfully so, but in our day jobs, this is where we see the fundamental change start to happen. These people do tend to sort of inspire trends. So all that to say that when these new people, let's say you were just hired to become head designer at Gucci, what's one of the first things you're going to do? You're going to go down into the Gucci archives and dig through what sort of made that brand what they are and what their DNA is. Mm-hmm. And so I think all these designers have done that. So consequently, we see fashion that is reaching back through the ages, whatever the height of that particular label might have been, we're seeing a return of some of that. So I think that fundamentally has altered sort of the fashion landscape, where we do see a lot of this, for lack of a better way to put it, retro style that's out there. But then something came along just in the last month or so. This is what you and I were talking about off the air, is the love story. I was roped into watching this by my wife under the pretext that this is the story of JFK Jr., Carolyn Bessette, which any of us, who were around as adults in the 90s will remember, this chapter of Camelot. And she was a publicist for Calvin Klein and worked in Calvin's offices, where they still are at 204 West 39th Street, right in Midtown in the Garment District. Mm-hmm. And some of our industry publications were talking about how well they realistically portrayed the Garment District in that era. I was like, okay, that sounds cool, because as I started my career in 1994, going back and forth to the Garment District. So I remember that. And the Garment District was still kind of... It was at the tail end, but still
gritty.
In its heyday back then. Rolling racks up and down the street and that kind of stuff is very different now. But anyway, so that sounded intriguing to me. So I thought, all right, I'll sit through it. Turns out it's actually a pretty good series. I think much of it is fictional, but it's an interesting series. But what we're seeing is these were two very fashionable people in their day, or even just, I think, stylish people. There's probably a difference. These two seem to have their own instinctual style, and she worked at Calvin Klein, so it probably helped. But the things that they were wearing have really started to work their way into modern mainstream
because
fashion.
of the show.
I think to some extent.
Okay.
Because
which would have been. I remember her iconic wedding dress was. It was the complete 180 to Princess Di's frou-frou, fluffy, kind of storybookish almost.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Lauren. I'll tell you something
Strawberry
interesting.
shortcake.
That was still early on in my career, and that was one of the first times. Now, you got to remember, this was before social media, before that we were inundated with all the visuals that we are these days. Back then, if you wanted to see something, or even if you didn't, you probably saw it on some sort of TV program. But I remember that being one of the first times in my life or my career going, wow, these people really can seismically shift and influence style, because as I came in the mid 90s, what you said, Princess Di, if you see my wife's wedding gown from 1996, yep, it's going to be our 30th anniversary this year. Mm-hmm. It was very poofy. There were poofy shoulders, ball gown.
And so was the hair.
Yes, right. But Jacqueline Bisset sort of single-handedly changed that. When they got married, she wore
Not Jacqueline Bisset, Carolyn Bisset.
Carolyn Bisset, sorry. Did you see what I did there?
Yes, I was like, is she playing Carolyn Bisset in the new show?
She single-handedly sort of changed it. She did very clean, simple slip dress from Calvin Klein. And like that, it used to be the girls would come walking in, freshly engaged girls come walking in with stacks of Modern Bride magazine in their hand and point to the pages that they wanted to see the dresses like, again, before the digital age. Suddenly, they all wanted these clean, simple dresses, and it changed. And probably for the next 10 or 12, maybe even 15 years,
yes,
the simplistic was more the way with bridal gowns.
It was almost like lingerie material even.
Yeah, very clean, easy. I mean, one thing about it is friendlier on the budget because much less ornate, a lot less going on.
Right.
But it was definitely something that signaled change. And so it's interesting now looking, call it 30 years later, these two are still sort of influencing what's happening in fashion, because I think now what you have is people that are in those jobs, in the fashion jobs now, the designers, the creatives in New York, are in their 20s and 30s. They didn't live through this, so they're watching this movie and getting inspired. And now, interestingly, they did a really good job with the wardrobes in this show. And as you look at them, any of them could come walking through these doors and what they're wearing in that show from the late 90s and look good right now.
I think John F. Kennedy Jr. was probably the most iconically beautiful man I've ever seen. And to this day, I mean, I don't know if anyone that I know could surpass it. He was so classic, but he was just so handsome. What was his signature look? What did he bring to the table when it came to fashion for men? You know,
one thing I think he did, and I remember it wasn't really even conscious, but I think I was even influenced by it, and it since has become a little bit more mainstream, is he had this high-low sensibility about him that he might have on, you know, a Gucci jacket, but he would wear it with Gap pants or something like that, you know, looking at labels that were around or prominent back then. He was in a suit, you know, he was working very hard late in his life to build George Magazine, which he did launch before he passed. But so he was in a suit by day, but then when you'd see him on the weekends, it was a backwards cap and a Nine Inch Nails t-shirt. And I remember going, oh, wow, there's somebody else that sort of thinks like I do, because that was, same generation and sort of my MO and kind of still is as well.
If I had known you, you might have been in competition for him of all those accolades I just poured on him.
I absolutely cannot be put into that classification, that's for sure. But he was inspiring. He definitely had his own style. But what's interesting, the show kind of portrays is that he had some insecurities, and it's not something that, most of us would go, psh, you're JFK Jr.
Yeah.
What do you have to worry about?
Well, when he didn't pass the bar the first 3 times, was it?
Yes,
I remember that was a huge embarrassment for him and his family. And I was so happy for him when he kind of got out of that and started the magazine, because it was almost like he found his niche and his way.
Yeah.
Sad thing that they're not still here, but with this new TV show and now influencing possibly the way we see style coming up. I love talking to you about it, Danny, because it is an art form and you have made it that way, and just so fascinating. And here we are in Elkhart, Indiana, downtown, and we can find what's going on in New York City, in the Garment District, in all the major design houses. You bring it here, but you have the impeccable way of finding the thing that people in Indiana can also jibe with, that they really can gravitate towards. It's not so New York that it doesn't feel right for Indiana. You have struck that perfect chord. And so we love that. We thank you for that. And Stephensons is all about that. So when we come back, you're going to do what you also do. You sort of flipping the hat around like you were just talking about.
We're going to go from 7th Avenue to Main Street, which we did. Now let's go to Pennsylvania Avenue.
Oh my gosh. There you have it. This is the Style File. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Podcasts by Federated Media.